Your heart is pounding. Your palms are sweating. Somewhere deep in your chest, an alarm is going off, loud and insistent, telling you that something is very wrong. And none of it is real. You know that. You're sitting on a couch. You're holding a controller. The only thing in front of you is a screen. So why does your body refuse to believe you? This is the strange puzzle at the center of every horror game. Millions of people sit down, on purpose, to be terrified by something they know isn't real. Not once. Not by accident. Over and over, for hours at a time, paying for the privilege. And every time, their bodies respond as if the danger is genuine. Racing heart. Shallow breath. A cold prickle down the back of the neck. If none of it is real, why does all of it feel real? Let's actually investigate this, because the answer isn't, it's just in your head. It's more specific than that, and much stranger. Start with the part of your brain responsible for detecting threats. It's a small almond-shaped structure buried deep inside, and its entire job is speed, not accuracy. It doesn't wait for your conscious mind to carefully evaluate a situation and issue a calm, reasoned verdict. It reacts first and asks questions later. This made perfect sense for most of human history. If you heard a rustle in tall grass, the version of you that assumed, predator, and jump survived more often than the version of you that assumed, probably just wind, and waited to gather more information. Being wrong about danger costs you a moment of embarrassment. Being wrong about safety can cost you your life. So your threat detection system evolved to be a little paranoid on purpose. Fast, twitchy, and quick to sound the alarm. Here's the part that matters for horror games. This system was built for a world without screens. It doesn't have a separate setting for real danger versus danger depicted through a controller. It responds to patterns. Sudden movement. Loud, sharp sounds. Darkness where you can't see what's coming. Silence that goes on just a little too long. Distorted human shapes, or shapes that move wrong. Your brain doesn't check whether these patterns are coming from an actual predator or from a rendered enemy on a screen before it hits the alarm button. By the time your conscious mind catches up and says, "Wait, this is just a game," your body has already reacted. Adrenaline is already in your bloodstream. Your heart is already beating faster. The alarm went off before the correction could arrive. So the first piece of the mystery is this: your threat detection system is fast, old, and not very picky. It fires on patterns, not on proof. But that alone doesn't fully explain why horror games specifically are so good at triggering it. Plenty of media shows scary things. Why does a horror game get under your skin in a way that, say, reading about a monster in a book usually doesn't? This is where the investigation gets interesting, because horror games aren't just showing you something frightening. They're doing something books and movies structurally cannot do. They're putting you inside the body making the decisions. Think about how you experience a horror game. You're not watching a character walk down a dark hallway. You are walking down the hallway. You choose when to turn the corner. You choose whether to open the door or back away from it. Your hands are on the controls the entire time, which means your brain is treating the movement as, in some limited but very real sense, your own. Researchers who study this call it embodiment, a fancy way of saying your brain starts mapping the character's actions onto its own sense of self. And once your brain treats the danger as something happening to a body it considers yours, the threat detection system stops treating it as a story and starts treating it as an event. Compare that to reading a scary passage in a book. Your imagination is doing the work, sure, but there's a layer of narrative distance built in. Someone else is walking down that hallway. In a horror game, you are. That single shift, from watching to doing, is enormous. Sound plays an even bigger role than most people realize, and this is worth pausing on because it's one of the most deliberately engineered parts of the whole experience. Good horror games rarely rely on jump scares alone. They build a soundscape using very low-frequency tones, sounds so deep you almost feel them more than hear them, rumbling just beneath the threshold of normal hearing. Your body reacts to these frequencies the same way it reacts to distant thunder or a large predator's growl, because for most of evolutionary history, low rumbling sounds meant something large and dangerous was nearby. Horror sound designers know this. They layer these tones under otherwise quiet scenes specifically to keep your nervous system on edge without you consciously noticing why. Then there's darkness itself, which does something clever to your visual system. Your eyes are extraordinary at detecting motion and edges in good lighting, but in darkness, your brain has to guess. It fills in gaps with probability, with pattern completion, with best guesses based on fragments of information. That's why a shadow in the corner of a dark room can look, for one heart-stopping second, like it might be shaped like a person. Your visual system isn't malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do, assume the worst when information is incomplete, because in the ancestral environment, incomplete information about a dark space was far more dangerous to ignore than to overreact to. Horror games exploit every one of these systems at once. The low rumble beneath the silence. The flickering light that never quite lets you see the whole room. The uncertainty about whether the shape ahead is furniture or something worse. The fact that you, personally, have to choose to walk toward it. Stack these together and you get a machine, essentially, for manufacturing the exact bodily state your ancestors felt when something with teeth was nearby. Except now it's coming from a screen in your living room. So here's where the investigation reaches its turning point, and it's the part that actually resolves the mystery. If your body genuinely believes it's in danger, why do so many people enjoy this feeling instead of simply fleeing the room? The answer lies in a concept researchers sometimes call safe fear, or benign masochism. It sounds contradictory, feeling afraid on purpose and calling it fun, but it makes complete sense once you separate two things that usually happen together in real danger and get split apart in a game. In real danger, your body produces a flood of adrenaline and cortisol, and your mind simultaneously registers that your life may actually be at risk. Both things happen together, the physical alarm and the genuine threat. In a horror game, your body still produces the flood of adrenaline. Your heart still races. Your palms still sweat. But some part of your mind, sitting quietly in the background the whole time, knows you are safe on your couch. You can pause. You can put the controller down. Nothing can actually reach you. This creates a strange and specific cocktail. All of the physical intensity of fear, none of the real consequence. And that combination, it turns out, is something the brain can experience as thrilling rather than traumatic. The same chemical signature that would feel unbearable if you believed you were truly in danger becomes, when your mind knows you're safe, closer to exhilaration. It's the same reason people ride roller coasters, watch scary movies through their fingers, or seek out haunted houses every October. The fear is real. The danger is not. And it's precisely that gap between the two that so many people find enjoyable rather than unbearable. This is also why the best horror games are so carefully calibrated. Too little tension, and there's no thrill at all, just a quiet walk through a dim hallway. Too much, too fast, with no release, and the experience stops being fun and starts being genuinely unpleasant, because if the fear becomes overwhelming enough, that quiet background awareness of safety can get drowned out. Good horror design is really an exercise in controlling that balance, ramping tension up just far enough to trigger the real physiological response, then giving you moments of release before pushing again. It's less like telling a scary story and more like conducting an orchestra made entirely of your own nervous system. So the full picture comes together. Your threat detection system is ancient, fast, and built to react to patterns rather than proof. Horror games place you inside the danger rather than beside it, using your own hands to make the choices. Sound and darkness are engineered specifically to exploit systems that evolved long before anyone had a name for entertainment. And underneath all of it runs a quiet, background certainty that you are, in fact, safe, which turns raw fear into something closer to a roller coaster ride than a genuine crisis. None of this is a flaw in you. It's not that horror games are tricking a broken system. They're using a perfectly functional one exactly as it was designed to be used, just aimed at a threat that was never really there. So the next time your heart is pounding over a rendered hallway and a sound design trick, remember what's actually happening. Your body isn't malfunctioning. It's doing precisely what kept your ancestors alive, running the same ancient program it always has, just this time, for fun.